Good evening, and welcome to this meeting of Westminster's Mayor and Council. Council meets here at City Hall on the second and fourth Mondays of every month. Please note that council meetings, although open to the public here at City Hall, are also available and streamed live on the city's YouTube page, as well as the Community Media Center channel and website. Now we'll begin as we do every meeting with the pledge to the flag, followed by a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to God, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. As a courtesy to everyone, please take a moment to silence your cell phones or any other electronic devices you have that might interrupt the meeting. Thank you. Copies of tonight's agenda and the entire information packet the council will be using are available online on the city's website. Copies of the agenda are also available here in the front of the room for anybody who's present tonight. So we get started off with something fun tonight, Dr. Becker. So
Yes,
if you'd like to go ahead and do this?
I would learn. So we're going to start off with the mayoral proclamation. So would you please join me at the front? This is the place of honor, right there. Okay, this is where everybody stands. All right. So I'll read this. I'm going to ask you to take the same thing, and then you know what to do. Okay. Great. Okay. Whereas in January 2024, the Maryland Municipal League held its 24th annual If I Were a Mayor, I Would essay contest. And the contest is open to all Maryland students enrolled in the 4th grade and is designed to help educate students about municipal government and the role of the mayor. And this year's theme was to write about inspiring leadership in your city, town, community, where students were asked to write about improving youth sports complexes, creating more spaces for community engagement, and inspiring others to use their voice. And out of 23 counties and 157 municipalities in the state of Maryland, just 11 students were chosen as winners. And the city of Westminster is proud to announce that our very own Yoda Willett from Mrs. Smith's class at Runnymede Elementary School was chosen as a winner. And Yoda's essay focused on the virtue of inclusiveness and compassion to ensure that people feel safe and comfortable while having fun in the city where they live. And now, therefore, I, Dr. Mona Becker, Mayor of the City of Westminster, on behalf of the Common Council and the city staff from the City of Westminster, do hereby recognize Yoda Willett as a winner of MML's If I Were a Mayor essay contest and a potential mayor in the making. Adopted this 10th day of June, 2024. I don't know where to look. Would you like to say something?
Sure.
All right. So I'll do it. You're gonna read. Okay.
If I were mayor, I would have fun carnival events, but I would also encourage people to recycle. Then I would make special playgrounds for people with special needs. I would be open to many ideas people said, and I would make sure the fire and police department had everything they need to have a successful job. I would encourage everyone to be a leader and have some sort of leadership. Then I would make a shelter where poor people could live until they had enough money to buy a home or rent something like an apartment. I would make sure everybody felt safe and secure. I would make sure more playgrounds and parks for people and dogs. Plus, I would always welcome new families so they felt content where they were. I would encourage people to get out of the house more and play outside at parks. I would also bring joy to people when they were down. I would make sure everybody had equal rights and opportunities in the town. Then I would also raise money for shelters to dogs and other pets to find loving families. I would make fun contests that you can enjoy, plus you can check out the house. I would also make the town a better place by providing things that will help people build a strong foundation that works with love, not fear. I am encouraging you to be the best you can be for you, not for anyone else but you. That's what I would do if I were mayor.
Right, congratulations. On the front of the MML bulletin we just got, Mr. Kvachi, if you could just hold up yours for a minute right there, is a picture of the winners with the governor on the top.
We don't.
I'm gonna say that.
It's a good thing there's a minimum age, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Please, don't feel compelled to stay.
Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. I mean, it's exciting. Let's see you again. Wow, we started this. Nice to see you.
Nice to really have residence space.
Spill it inside for a week now. They weren't really good for you. Before we go on, just want to also mention one other fun thing and say happy birthday to Ms. Gilbert, who had her birthday yesterday. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing. Public hearings in the city of Westminster are led by the mayor, so I will turn the gavel over to Dr. Becker.
All right, thank you very much, Council President Pecoraro. I'll call this public meeting to order. So public meeting to order at 7:07. Public hearing on ordinance number 2024-05 for local map amendment, LMA 24-01, amending the zoning map to rezone parcel F-1B of the Carroll County Department of Public Works amended plat of parcels F-1 and C-1, parentheses, PB 54 PG 248, end parentheses, from the IR industrial restricted zone to the B business zone. Would anyone like to speak on this matter? Mr. Depot, would you like to say anything?
If I could, I'd just like to go over some of the points for the application. Again, this is a zoning map amendment. The property is located east of Littletown Pike on Maryland Route 97 and approximately 320 feet south of the intersection of Meadow Branch Road and Maryland 97. The property is undeveloped and is approximately 0.174 acres in size and is owned by Dale Feeser and Deborah Ellis. The property was annexed in the city on July 1, 1985. This property has been zoned IR restricted zone since the annexation. The property has a land use designation of industrial in the City of Westminster Comprehensive Plan, and the property is located within the W1 and S1 service areas. There are city and county properties located within the neighborhood of this property, several different zoning districts. The only B business zone is the adjacent property to the south of this property. The mayor and common council may grant the amendment to change the zoning classification based on the finding that there was one, a substantial change in the character of the neighborhood where the property is located, or two, a mistake in the existing zoning classification. On February the 15th, 2024, LMA 2401 was introduced to the Planning Commission. On March 21st, 2021, the commission held a public hearing on LMA 2401. And on April 18th, 2024, the commission was provided a draft commission report and recommendation and a draft ordinance for review and approval. The commission authorized the commission chair to provide a final approval of these draft documents, and Chair Bayard, via email, April 19th, 2024, stated that the draft documents pertaining to LMA 2401 are satisfactory and accurately reflect the commission's decision. Based on the findings of the staff report of fact and the commission's report and recommendation, which are attachment 10 of the report, the commission recommends that the mayor and common council approve local map amendment LMA 2401, rezoning the property from the IR restricted zone to the B business zone due to a mistake in the original and comprehensive zoning of the property. Based on the findings of fact of the report, the zoning administrator concurs with the commission that the petitioner failed to demonstrate a change in the character of neighborhood since the original zoning or last comprehensive rezoning to justify a piecemeal rezoning. However, the zoning administrator does find, in accordance with the commission's report and recommendation, that they also recommend that the mayor and common council approve ordinance number 2024-05 for local map amendment LMA 2004, rezoning the parcel from IR industrial restricted zone to the B business zone. And I'm available for any questions, and we do have representatives of the applicant here.
Thank you. Would anyone like to say anything?
Don't worry, I've got a presentation. First, I'm going to hand out copies for everybody just to look through.
Can you give a copy to the clerk?
Yes. Thank you. One copy, so you can make sure.
Thank you.
Set an extra one here in case. All right, so I think everybody knows where this property is. I don't know where to stand. So, this property is located on Route 97. It's kind of across from the signalized intersection of the Commerce Center. You're likely very familiar with this property, but some of you might not be aware that this is actually two parcels because they've been kind of cohesively used for many, many years. So I'm going to give you just a little bit of the background, and then I have the contract purchaser, Chital Patel, here with me, and Jim Mathias from DDC to speak to some of the specifics. So the one parcel that you're probably very familiar with is where the Feeser family operated a grocery store and a deli. That dated back to the 1970s. That is separate from the parcel where the parking is and has always been. That gravel kind of parking lot that you see, which is actually accessed through the commercial parcel, is a separate parcel with separate zoning. That's why we're here tonight. So the adjoining parcel is that second parcel with the parking area. The commercial piece, I'll call it that, which is where the grocery store, deli, now beauty salon is. The Feeser family has owned that since the 1960s. That grocery store and deli, that commercial center, opened in about 1970 or around that time. And part of what you have in that exhibit packet is an affidavit of Dale Feeser. He's been able to be present at certain meetings, but not others. So that provides a little bit of the history as well for you. In 2011, the Feeser family requested an annexation of that commercial piece where the center was, beauty salon. And as part of that annexation, that property was rezoned from industrial in the county to business in the city. The industrial piece, which is what we're here for tonight, that parcel next door with the parking lot, that was under separate ownership. The county, in 1976, the county took ownership of that entire area from another person, not Feeser. In 1985, the county annexed a large swath of that land, including the parking lot up to Meadow Branch. And when it got annexed, the zoning just stayed the same. We can all theorize. My guess is that the county had no need to rezone it, didn't want increased property taxes, whatever. And so just kept it the equivalent zoning district. The Feeser family had leased that parking lot that entire time. So although it was still used as parking that worked with the commercial center, it was not owned by the Feesers. It was part of a bigger piece, and it was being leased by the Feesers. So in about 2015, at that time, the IDA, the Industrial Development Authority, owned that small parcel, And that was sold, or actually not sold, I'm sorry, gifted to the Feasers. It was kind of carved off that little parking area. When you see it, it's a very, I'll say, a unique parcel because it's very small and it's industrial zoned. So since all of that time, it's been used as parking to accommodate that adjoining commercial use. The problem that we now encounter is that there's two separate zoning districts. We have the B business zoning district over the commercial center, and then we have the industrial zoning district over that small parking lot. What occurred that led to this request is that a site plan was submitted to develop the two cohesively, redevelop, I should say, the two cohesively, just like they've existed to date, with a building, commercial building on the business center and the parking to accommodate it where the existing parking lot is. Unfortunately, in the city's B zoning district, it does not, or I'm sorry, in the city's IR zoning district, it does not allow for commercial parking to accommodate that. So that is why we're here tonight for you, to ask that that adjoining parcel be rezoned to match the zoning of the commercial center. Two important things that I want you to keep in mind, but also that Planning Commission thought a lot about in their considerations was the size of this parcel. The parcel that we're requesting be rezoned is 0.1742 acres. So we're talking about less than a quarter of an acre. It is subject to a navigation easement that was entered into in about 2020. So that does prevent, it does not prevent the continued use of the parking, which is part of your exhibit packet. You'll see a letter from Delta, I believe, to Mr. Feaser confirming that and agreeing to that easement would not impact the parking, but it does impact any other development of that parcel. So the petition that's before you was based on two arguments, both change in the character of the neighborhood and mistake. Those are the two ways that one can request an individual rezoning. So both were asserted in the petition. Planning Commission considered both arguments. Both were spoken to, testified to as part of Planning Commission's public hearing. I'm not going to rehash all of those. You have them all in writing in your packets before you. But just to quickly summarize the change argument, there have been several changes in the character of that neighborhood since the last comprehensive rezoning in the city. A few of them that I'll say quickly is there was an amendment to the development plan for the Commerce Center. And then we saw the development of that Royal Farms there right at that intersection. SHA has been working to widen Route 97, specifically north of this site, and has been condemning taking additional property up there to accommodate the widening. We've seen a growth and expansion of the airport, both in condemnation of land as well as additional navigation easements. And we've had kind of citywide infrastructure improvements, specifically Ting and fiber optic internet in this area. So those were some of the arguments that were set forth in the petition to summarize the changes that have occurred in the character of the neighborhood. Planning Commission supported the mistake argument. And if you had the opportunity to listen to some of their discussion, part of the reason they felt more favorable towards that argument is because they thought that a change in the character of the neighborhood could support other petitions coming in for annexation, that they found that. And they were a little bit hesitant of that. And so therefore they found towards the mistake argument. That was largely based on the historical use of the property. It's been used as a parking lot since the 1970s. And so they felt that that had been overlooked when it was annexed, rezoned, and the comprehensive rezonings overlooked that fact. And so that was a mistake. They also thought that the size of the property really does not lend itself to any other redevelopment, whether that be business or industrial, probably, aside from parking that will support this site. So there's also, and I believe that Mr. Depot's staff report goes into detail on this, the section of the Maryland Annotated Code that walks through some of the criteria that need to be found to support a rezoning. All of that was part of what was presented to the Planning Commission, and that's summarized nicely in your packet. So again, I will not rehash. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have on that. I did briefly want to ask Jim some questions, Jim Mathias, as part of our testimony that we're going to present here tonight. So Shittel's here, should you have any questions of him. He's the contract purchaser, and he's very familiar with this property. The site plan started review in 2020, so he has some familiarity with this property and this entire area. But Jim is going to speak just briefly to a few points. So you all know, I think, Jim Mathias with DVC. So unless you would like me to, I would ask that he be qualified as an expert in the area of site development and planning.
We're good.
Okay, thank you. So appreciate that. Jim, did you prepare the plat that accompanied this rezoning petition?
I did.
Okay, and can you just briefly explain what you look at to prepare a plat of that nature?
Sure. Well, in this case, because it's a plat, it's based on a boundary survey. In the course of doing a boundary survey, we research deeds, adjacent deeds, zoning maps, water and sewer maps, record plats, comp plans, master plans.
And have you also been involved in the preparation of the site plan that I spoke about?
Yes.
Okay. And are you aware of the existing use of this parcel today?
Yes.
What is that?
It's vacant. It's vacant, approximately, probably a little slightly better than 50% gravel being used as parking for the adjacent retailers.
And to the best of your knowledge, is that how it has been used historically?
Yes.
How is this parcel accessed?
There's actually curb in front of the property from 97, so you have to access it from the adjacent retail use property.
And generally, is it a beneficial concept to limit access to state highways?
It's typically required, yes.
So if the site were developed cohesively as it currently operates, that would be beneficial because it would eliminate an additional access point on
Yes.
97. Okay. Is it your understanding that any site plan approved would require consolidation of these two parcels?
Yes.
Can you just generally describe the neighborhood that this is located in, the subject property?
So, immediately to the north of us, the property is vacant until you get to Meadow Branch Road. Immediately to the east, the property is also vacant. It's being farmed on the opposite side of 97. Immediately to the south of us is the retail property that we've discussed that's zoned business. And then a little further south, the rest of that property there is actually within the county. And that's a mix of, I think it's R10 and I1, the county's I1. And then immediately to the west is, again, some vacant property. And a little further is the Carroll County.
And is it true that the subject property is subject to a navigation easement?
Correct.
Have you had the opportunity to take a look and review that document?
I did.
Does that limit the use of the property?
It does.
Are you familiar with the site development plan process through the city?
I am.
Is it accurate that if a rezoning were approved, that process would still have to be gone through and a final site plan would have to be approved before any development could occur or redevelopment of this property?
Yes.
Now, you understand there are several uses allowed in the business district other than commercial parking, correct? Can you just generally explain whether you think it's realistically that any other use would develop on this site?
In its current zone?
Yes.
No.
Or in the B business zone?
Well, I can speak specifically to the IR. I think you could have a building of maybe 10 by 15 feet with the considering the building setbacks, it's very low.
And in addition to building setbacks, you also have to design for stormwater management and all other landscaping and all other aspects of site design, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it your opinion that the B zoning district is appropriate for this property?
Yes.
Can you just generally explain why?
Well, it would obviously be supportive of the use that we're proposing on the existing B zone property. It would blend the two properties together if you've taken a site visit or driven by. Topographically, it makes perfect sense. It is on the same level as the existing retail building. And then once you leave the property, it falls off fairly steeply for about 10 feet into the other IR property.
And I'm sure you've breezed through these as I've had them in front of you, but the first is what I've marked as exhibit 1 is just the rezoning plat. It was part of the application itself, but I just thought it would be helpful to have one in front of you. The second is a very brief legal memorandum, which asserts the change of state arguments or legal basis for the arguments. The third is an aerial photograph of the property, which might be helpful in just realizing that these are two parcels, even though they appear cohesive when you look visually at them. The fourth is the street view images of the property, which Jim just kind of explained the topography of those and how they are all even and match, if you will. The fifth is the affidavit signed by Dale Feeser with the Delta letter. And then the sixth is just a copy of the abrogation easement that exists over the property. I understand that the abrogation easement is a more recent document, but I still think it sheds light on some of the potential for the property and is important in your overall consideration. So like I said, we're here, we're happy to answer any additional questions that you might have. I understand that this is a public hearing, so therefore I put on testimony and presented you with a little bit more formal evidence here this evening. I would like to ask that all of the exhibits please be entered. Oh, yes. Sorry. I was looking at this map. No, that's okay. And like I said, we're here and happy to answer any questions, but we are hoping tonight that you are willing to favorably vote on the rezoning of this property from industrial to business so that we can continue on through the site plan process for the property. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Would anyone else? Mr. Devo.
Just for the record, so the title petitioner's exhibit packet, LMA 2401 would be exhibit 12. Just so we have that for the record. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to comment? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing at 7:27.
Thank you, Dr. Becker. Move on now with the next item, approval of minutes. We have,
Mr. President,
yes.
we have a guest from McDaniel here tonight.
Oh, yes, you're right, we do. As we often do here at our city council meetings, we have a visitor from McDaniel College. When Dr. Jaskin took over as president of the college, she promised that she would try to have a member of her senior staff here as often as possible to share with us what's happening up at the Hill and take back to the staff of the college what's going on in the city. So please have that event up there with us. Would you like to share anything with us?
Yes, just a few updates. Thanks again for the time. I always appreciate being able to come and share just a couple notes from the Hill. Mostly right now we are in summertime mode, which means we have sent our students off for the summer and are welcoming different camps and pre-orientation programs. So it's a little bit slower pace for us up on the Hill. My two updates are really, the first is that Sarah Impulse, our city administrator, and I recently got to go together to an International Town Gown Association, which I had not heard of until Sarah and I started meeting more regularly to keep the connection going between the city of Westminster and McDaniel. So the two of us were able to go to a conference together earlier in the week to just hear what other municipalities and colleges are doing to hopefully continue to brainstorm the best ways to stay connected. So I'm very grateful we had the opportunity to do that. And then my second are just a couple of summer save the dates that the community might be interested in that we're offering up on the Hill. So the first is that next Thursday, June 20th, we are offering a free movie on the football field. It's going to be Disney's Encanto. And it's going to start at 7:30 p.m. for concession stands. People can come and grab a spot, bring your own blankets and chairs to the football field, and then the movie will start around 8:30 p.m. Totally free. Concessions will be available for purchase. And then watch our website because we are going to have to cancel in the case of bad weather. So we'll notify everybody through social media and our website, and then we'll have a sign on the football field screen if we need to cancel as well. And then the other thing that usually happens on campus over the summer, this year's no exception, is our common ground on the hill, which is just, if you've never been, it's such an eclectic assortment of arts and music, just a really cool opportunity. There are offerings ranging from free to a couple $100 courses to get more involved in a project or a program. So there's tons of information on the McDaniel website, or if you Google Common Ground at McDaniel, that'll take you right to it. But just wanted everyone to know that those are available for registration or just free to show up, depending on what the event is. So thanks so much.
Aaron, the movie is on the 20th of June, is that
Yes.
right?
Yes,
What was the movie?
it's Disney's Encanto. So it's a musical animated Disney.
Like that movie?
Yes. Kid movie,
You're welcome.
but fun for all.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it would be great for your grandkids. Excellent.
Thank you all so much.
Very good. Thank you very much for coming. Please thank Dr. Jaskin for us.
Certainly will, thanks.
We'll move on now to approval of the minutes. We have minutes, 5 sets of minutes from meeting of the Mayor and Common Council on May 13th, the work session on May 16th, special meeting on May 20th, the work session on May 20th, and the meeting of May 28th. We have to motion to approve all the minutes. Thank you, Mr. Kavachi. Motion from Mr. Kavachi. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A second from Mr. Hoff. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have it. The ayes have it. And the minutes are approved. We have 3 items on the consent calendar this evening. We have a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Gilbert. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Dayhoff. All those in favor of approving the consent calendar, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have it. The ayes have it. Consent calendar is approved. Report from the mayor. Dr. Beck.
Great, thank you, Mr. President. I'll move through this quickly. Towards the end of the month of May, I presented the Historic District Commission with a proclamation in honor of May as National Preservation Month. And just a reminder that the city, the county, and the state organizations, the historical organizations, have begun to plan for the nation's semi-quincentennial anniversary, the 250th anniversary, which will take place in 2026. I attended Magic's board meeting on May 30th. One of the main tasks at hand was focusing on some new fundraising initiatives and the use of Magic's new makerspace. You might recall that Magic has a makerspace as well in ARC, where they're handling some of the overflow from Exploration Commons. Magic continues to be incredibly involved in Westminster's technological initiatives and their good game events. This is their Friday evening events where kids and families can come into Westminster and play video games. With Magic will be held on Friday, June 28th from 6 to 9 p.m. And it's not at their little place on Main Street. This year they're moving it to ARC just because it's a larger space and they've had that demand for that. The end of last week was incredibly busy. The Historical Society of Carroll County, which is celebrating their 85th anniversary this year, held their variety show on Thursday, June 6th at the Carroll Arts Center. It was a fun evening. I played the role of Catherine Shellman, a school teacher. I was typecast from a snippet of a small thing called The House That Jacob Built. The students were much more attentive than the students I currently have at Westminster High School. It was a fun evening. The Art Center was full. And they also unveiled their new short documentary highlighting their mission and goals for the coming year. And I think we're lucky to have such a great organization on Main Street. And I know they've included their newsletter for all the council members tonight in the meeting. And they have some fun activities coming up this summer. On Friday, the city officially dedicated the Raven Tree sculpture by Thomas Sterner at Wakefield Valley. It was a great event. I have said this is probably the last time I say it. I promise. I thought we were all going to stand around the sculpture for 20 minutes, say a few comments, and be on our merry way. And when we got to the top of the hill where the sculpture was, it looked like it was set up for a wedding reception. It was beautiful. There was a band, there were arts and crafts, there was ice cream, there were snacks, there were cold drinks. There were tables set up with little quotes about ravens. You could make raven origami. It was, Mrs. Gruber, it was amazing, right? It was incredibly well attended. Council member, Gilbert, was in attendance, Council member Hall, Council, President Greg Pecoraro, and Commissioner, Kyler, joined us as well as several of the artists in Carroll County. So thank you and hats off to Abby and her team for pulling it together. The weather was gorgeous. Later that same evening, I gave a talk at Westminster United Methodist Church about our Pure Water Westminster project. There were about 50 to 60 people in the audience. The talk was very well received. There were lots of really great questions. And thanks to the city staff who dropped off the graphics that I used and the examples of the membranes used for filtration in the project. And then this morning, I gave remarks at the 5th grade recognition ceremony at Westminster Elementary School. 5th graders are tough to talk to sometimes, especially if there's like 90 of them. But it goes really great. I've become their traditional recognition speaker for their 5th grade elementary class, which is a lot of fun. But the school is not only located within the city boundaries, but in 4 years, those students may also have me for physics. And that is my report, Mr. President.
If they're lucky.
If they're lucky, they'll have me for physics. That's the good out.
That's right. Thank you, Dr. Becker, and thank you for doing all those events on our behalf. Move on now to reports from our committees. We begin with our liaison to the Carroll County Arts Council, Mr. Dayhoff.
Thank you, Mr. President. Art in the Park went well, which is one of the Arts Council's recent events. And again, there's lots of great programming for the summer at the Arts Council, and consult the website for much more information. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Dayhoff. Economic and Community Development Committee. Mr. Hoff.
Nothing to report tonight, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. On behalf of the Finance Committee, let me just say once again to all my colleagues, thank you for your support in the budget process, which we concluded at our last regular meeting. Very pleased that we have once again adopted a balanced budget with, for the 12th year in a row, no increase in the tax rate. This is, I think, once again due to the great fiscal management on the part of the staff. Of course, oversight by the mayor and council and the policies that we develop, and the fact that we have worked very hard to continue to make sure that the budget is sustainable, that we're able to manage our finances in this way so that we don't require a tax increase. Thanks again to everybody, and in particular to Ms. Imhouse and Ms. Rogers and the rest of the staff and to all the department heads who worked so hard to make this possible. I have nothing from the Personnel Committee. Public Safety, Mr. Kavachi.
Thank you, Mr. President. On June 3rd, Chief Ledwell attended the quarterly Police Accountability Board meeting where he presented information regarding the Westminster Police Department's Pillar 2 statistics. On June 6th, members of the Westminster Police Department participated in a countywide arrest warrant sweep with partner agencies, resulting in the service and closure of 52 open warrants. Very nice job there, Chief. On June 6th, Chief Ledwell joined the Carroll County Chamber of Commerce staff to present a public safety award to a member of the Carroll County Hospital Center staff for her actions during the May 23rd incident at the hospital emergency department that I'm sure you guys all remember. And of course, some awards were given to some of our officers for their actions that day as well. They saved some lives, no doubt. And then lastly, tomorrow, the Chief and I will be attending the Carroll County Torch Run for Special Olympics. I'll be presenting a proclamation on behalf of the mayor. Are you running, Chief? Neither am I.
I'm shocked to hear that.
That is all I have, Mr. President.
That 0.5K doesn't help you train for that?
That's about the extent of what I'm going to do.
Thank you, Mr. Kavachi. Public Works, Ms. Gilbert.
The report for Public Works, there was setup and tear down for Art in the Park. They restriped the parking lot at the city administration building, the police department, and the family center. It's all set up for St. John's event and tear down after the cancellation due to the torrential rain and weather that occurred for that evening. There was set up for the Raven Tree event in down. And there is hydrant flushing that continues and will continue throughout the summer. Kind of check out the website and or any other notices for the area where the hydrant flushing will be occurring. And the water main project continues down Main Street. That's all I have for Public Works. Would you like me to go right on into Parks and
I would please, thank you.
So Parks and Rec, the city celebrated the dedication of Raven Tree as the mayor so wonderfully described. I will not elaborate any more for that because you covered every detail down to the centerpieces. Approximately 60 people were in attendance at the dedication, and it is the first public art installation at Wakefield Valley Park. Everyone is getting ready for a fun-filled day of community bonding and delicious food and drinks at the Westminster's Beer and Barbecue Stroll that will be happening this Saturday on Main Street from noon to 4. And I understand the weather will be spectacular. So don't miss out the opportunity to enjoy everyone's great company and food. And on top of that, summer day camp starts on June 17th and will continue through Monday through Friday for the next 11 weeks. Downtown will be flooded with little children. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Grayhoff, anything from the technology committee?
I guess I want to take the opportunity to share that I've had the opportunity recently to talk with a number of technology folks from across the country, and a lot of the challenges that they were discussing with many of the current technology challenges that are exigent. We do really well, and I really appreciate the leadership of Rick Moore and our technology folks in the city. We do a lot of things really well, and I think we need to say that from time to time. That'll be my report, Mr. President. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Grayhoff. Now it's time for council comments and discussion. This is an opportunity for council members to share anything that isn't elsewhere on the agenda. It's still on your mind. We'll do that. I just wanted to take a moment at the start of that and say, I also enjoyed the Raven Tree event. It was fabulous for all the reasons we talked about, but I didn't want to talk about that. I wanted to talk about the fact that we're continuing the city's investment in public art, which I think is really an important thing. Enough communities don't do that, and I think art is an incredibly important part of the life of a community. So I'm very pleased that we over a period of years have taken important steps to foster the arts here in Westminster through our support of the Carroll County Arts Council, in giving them the Old Carroll Theater for just $1 a year, and letting them use that and all the great programming they're able to do because of that. But the other public art that we've supported around the community, and the plans we have to do more, which I think. To that end, I thought, we value the reports that Mr. Dale gives us, on a regular basis from the Arts Council. But I was speaking with the Executive Director of the Arts Council, Lynn Griffith, and I thought, we ought to have her come by and speak to us. I think she's got a lot going on there, some things that I think would be good if she shared with us. So I asked the city clerk to arrange for her to come and speak with us sometime that it's mutually convenient when we don't have a lot of other presentations. I think that'd be valuable.
And Mr. President, we're going to try to schedule that when all 6 of you are available as well.
Very good, thank you. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we also had, we love it when people visit Westminster, and the opportunity to show off the city a little bit. We had that opportunity just recently when Baltimore County Executive, John Yashevsky, was here in Westminster. He was meeting with the county commissioners as part of his role as chair of the Mako Board of Directors, and he had the opportunity to visit Ginny Birds and partake of some fine refreshments there, which was a great experience for everyone to have when they come to Westminster. And we also got the opportunity to sit down with him and talk a little bit about some of the exciting things we're doing in Westminster that make us a forward-thinking community. And we were able to take him over to visit Magic, which of course is an important part of how we try to share information about the Westminster Fiber Network, and then on over to the robotics facility. So I think it was very educational for him. I think he was pleased to see all the exciting things happening in its neighboring community. And it's always nice to be able to educate other state officials about, what's going on here. Mr. Kavachi.
I have nothing.
Thank you. Mr. Danoff.
I wanted to echo your remarks about arts and cultural events and public art especially. You and I have been talking about public art now for 20 years. It's a leading economic development driver. Some of the other municipalities that we've seen in the past who use public art, it brings a lot of folks to town, and it's good stuff. So I think we're in the correct direction on that. There's been 3 large events in the city recently, and the city was one display. They all took place seamlessly. We had the Westminster Fire Department had its major fundraising event, which brought, I wanted to say, about over 1,000 folks to the fire company. We also had the Delaware Maryland Lutheran Synod meeting, which brought over 500 folks from Maryland and Delaware. The mayor spoke extremely well on Saturday morning, addressed the group, and that was really good stuff. And then we had the St. John Eucharistic pilgrimage, which was a nationwide event, and all 3 events went extremely well. And I know for a fact that many folks with the Lutheran conference, the narrative, the buzz at the conference was all the great restaurants that we have in town. And I know they went to many of the restaurants because I got asked repeatedly for directions to different places. I believe that'll be my report, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Danoff. Ms. Gilbert.
The only thing I want to add that was not said is June 13th as the county proclamation of Elder Abuse Awareness Day. So the local county Department of Social Services will be going to the county for that, but they will also be hosting a movie on abuse and exploitation, Aging Matters, at the Library Commons at 1 o'clock. And that's all I have additional.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Hoff.
The other thing I was going to mention is I happened to go to First Watch today with my wife, and we were at Westminster Station, and we were waiting around, and we were kind of walking around, just kind of looking at the redevelopment of that site. And we were kind of talking about how it's nice to see some of the redevelopment that's happening in Westminster over the recent years, some of our commercial sites, and frankly, how particularly when we're talking about some of the redevelopment along Route 140, how much more attractive looking some of these sites are. And, it really occurred to me, how appreciative I am of the planning department's hard work in trying to make sure the quality of some of the architecture that we get in town it kind of meets the direction that we want to go. And really also to the efforts of the Planning and Zoning Commission as well when they're reviewing these plans and making comments. Because I know they put a lot of thought in when they're reviewing those plans as well. And I think it's kind of starting to pay off because you're kind of continuing to see some of those redevelopments happening, and the architecture is nice looking. So that just kind of struck me today. Also really enjoyed the Raven Tree dedication. I had not gotten a chance to see it until I was there on Friday, and it's an awesome piece of art. And it's great to have it out at that location. And I look forward to seeing more of that as time goes on. That's it.
Thank you very much. Move on now to ordinances and resolutions. First item is adoption of ordinance number 2024-05 for local map amendment LMA 24-01, amending the zoning map to rezone parcel F-1B of the Carroll County Department of Public Works amended plat of parcels F1 and C1, parentheses PB 54 PG .248, close parentheses, from the IR industrial restricted zone to B business zone. We just had the public hearing on this earlier this evening. You all heard that. Mr. Depot, is there anything you'd like to add?
Other than just to state that both the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Zoning Administration recommend that the Mayor and Common Council adopt the ordinance approving LMA 2401. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. All right, may I have a motion on adoption?
To approve, Mr. President.
Thank you. The motion,
second.
right, motion by Mr. Kavachi to adopt, and a second by Mr. Hoff. Is there any further discussion or any questions for Mr. Huber?
I will just note, Mr. President, I was at the planning and zoning meeting when this was introduced. I was not there to follow up. But I remember leaving the meeting when it was introduced thinking that mistake probably made more sense in my mind. And that was before the planning and zoning commission deliberated. So I'm definitely in agreement with how the planning and zoning commission got to their conclusion. I think it's the right analysis of the situation in regards to how you get there, and I think mistake is the way to go.
All right, very good. Thank you, Mr. Hoff. Anyone else?
Mr. President,
Mr. Kavach?
I just would like to express my appreciation for the folks that came before us at the hearing today in a very professional, well done, well presented, and appreciate the testimony. It was very informative. Thank you.
Good, thank you. All right. What else? All right, well, look forward to moving this along, having another amenity for our citizens out on Route 97 and maybe capture some of that money before it goes back to Pennsylvania.
There you go.
All right, so there's no further discussion. We're ready for the vote. All those in favor of adoption of ordinance number 2024-05, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have it, the ayes have it, and the ordinance is adopted. Thank you all very much. Good. The next item is adoption of ordinance number 2024-06, fiscal year 24 budget amendment number 2, an ordinance of the mayor and common council of Westminster, Maryland, approving and adopting a budget amendment for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024. Ms. Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will just add that this budget amendment that's before you has not changed since it was introduced a few weeks ago. And each one of these items were brought before the council, mayor and council for approval prior to being introduced in this budget amendment. And I'm available for any questions you might have about these expenditures.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Rogers. We have a motion to adopt the ordinance.
Motion to adopt.
A motion by Ms. Gilbert. Is there a second?
I'll make a second.
Thank you, Mr. Hoff. There's a second by Mr. Hoff and a motion by Ms. Gilbert. Yeah, I'll just echo Ms. Rogers' remarks. Of course, we've along the way been noting that as we discuss some of the items that are included in here, that we would be having a budget amendment, to sort of bring it all together. The fiscal year closes very soon, and I anticipate this is probably the last budget amendment we will see for this fiscal year. But we want to get everything wrapped up. So, does anybody else have any questions or comments? Hearing none, move on to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have it, the ayes have it, and the ordinance is adopted. Thank you. There's no unfinished business of which I'm aware. Does anybody have any unfinished business?
Thank you.
Hearing none, move on to new business. We have one item of new business. Mr. Kamachi.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to go into closed meeting. I move that the common council adjourn to a closed meeting in accordance with the general provisions of the article of the annotated code of Maryland 3-305B subsection 7 to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice.
Thank you, Mr. Kamachi. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been a motion by Mr. Kamachi and a second by Mr. Hoff. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have, the ayes have it, and we will go into a closed meeting at the conclusion of the regular meeting. It's time now for departmental reports. Ms. Imhoff, will you please lead us through those?
Yes, thank you, sir. I'm going to start with some housekeeping items. I just want to remind the public, city offices will be closed on June 19th for the holiday of Juneteenth, as well as July 4th for the Independence Day holiday. And while we're at it, I'm sure, Mr. President, you'll announce this later, just as a reminder that there will be no council meeting on the 24th because you canceled that at the last meeting, or maybe a couple of meetings. As Ms. Benevento mentioned, McDaniel College and I were able to attend the International Town Gown Association conference last week. That was the first conference that we had been to. A lot of other municipalities were there with their university counterparts. So the city administrator or the city manager or the deputy or assistant city manager with the chief of staff, which is what Ms. Benevento's title is. But there were also a lot of universities that were there without their city counterparts. And so we found it to be incredibly helpful and interesting to speak with our colleagues, but also to get some creative ideas about things we'd like to see coming forward in the next year or two. But more than anything, we were able to confirm what a great job we actually are doing. That not everyone was there together, so that on its own seemed pretty significant. We had planned it out pretty thoroughly, so we were specific at targeting which classes we wanted to attend, made sure to get back together, talk that over, and see what we learned. And we've been doing a lot since Westminster Welcome is one that not everyone does, and ours is pretty successful. And as McDaniel has announced previously, the pipeline that they have between the 8th graders and the 10th graders, trying to get them encouraged to go to any college, or specifically to McDaniel, funding that they've got set aside for Carroll County students to go to McDaniel, the connection they have with the community college and McDaniel, all of these are really important to the education of the students in Carroll County. And a lot of people were surprised to hear at that level of detail. So I envision, in the next few years, we may have a Westminster panel at one of these conferences, because we've got some things to share that I think would be best practices for others as well. So all in all, I think it was a really useful conference to go to. We're looking forward to going next year as well. I wasn't able to attend the Raven Tree dedication because I was at the conference. I understand it went really well. I heard such positive feedback, and I just want to thank the council for your continued dedication to the Wakefield Park itself. As you know, we haven't put any city funds into those projects, but there's extensive work planned out there and in the middle of being executed. And the public art piece is one that Mr. Sterner was able to get a grant for as well. So no city funds were included in that project as well. So that park is just stunning, and I appreciate the continued dedication from the council in the budget and through those projects.
Ms. Moss, can I interrupt for just a moment to say,
Please.
one of the things that I noticed that day, that I've noticed at many other events recently, I'm very, very pleased about, is that so many of our department heads are attending all of these important city events. I know that's because certainly you have arranged it, but I just really think that all of us appreciate seeing everybody. I think it shows a lot of support from the whole city. So that's what's public to say. Thanks to you and all the department heads for joining us for all those events.
Good, thanks.
Mr. President, before we move on to the individuals, I wanted to compliment you, Ms. Walsh. We talk a lot about improving our relationship with McDaniel, and I think we've done a good job over the years of continuing to develop that. But talk is one thing, talk is cheap, but you taking the time to do that just furthers that relationship. It's real rubber meets the road activity. Your time is incredibly valuable, and to give up your time to do that, I know you're sacrificing other things, but it's important. It's important to us. And I just wanted to say, and I'm sure everyone agrees with me, we're grateful that you took the time to do that. I see those things as being incredibly valuable down the road. Like you said, it's just going to continue to grow that relationship and foster it. And I just think that's wonderful, and I'm appreciative you took the time to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President. At the Downtown Business Association, did we discuss freshman orientation days that will be coming up for the college? I believe we did. If we could have those dates, that would be great, so that all of us could be aware of when many folks from out of town are going to be in town. And if we have any partnership opportunities with McDaniel, that would be important. If I'm not mistaken, there were 3 dates. And I was just looking in the computer to see if I could pull up those dates, and I wasn't. But if we could have those dates, that would be another great opportunity to partner with college.
That's a great idea.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
McDaniel will be adding a little corner, a very small corner, to the city newsletter that goes out to all of the, with some QR codes to get back to their website, because the information changes fairly rapidly. So that was one idea that came out of that conference.
Good idea. Yeah, that's good.
All right. Ms. Gruber, let's start with the Recreation and Parks Department.
Good evening. I won't recap anything about Raven Tree dedication or the Beer Barbecue Stroll. I think that's been covered. I will remind you that our municipal pool complex opens 7 days a week, starting on Wednesday, just in time for our heat wave. So we're very happy that, again, Mother Nature has cooperated with us. And we are looking forward to bringing that forward to the community 7 days a week. We do have to wait until Carroll County Public Schools are out so that we have staff to keep our pool open. So if you get any questions about why our pool operates on that schedule, that is why. We don't have any lifeguards to sit in chairs while they're still in high school. So in addition to that, I am also happy to report that our pickleball court resurfacing project in City Park is moving productively forward. We had to wait for temperatures 80 degrees and rising to successfully complete that project. And so because that forecast is coming our way, the courts, both sides, were power washed today and the resurfacing will start tomorrow. So right before I came up here, I locked everything down to keep people off the courts. They're so busy, I had to kick people off the courts because we don't even have nets up anymore, but somebody brought their own, they were out there playing. So I had to ask them to please leave, and we locked the gates to keep the court surface nice and clean for tomorrow's resurfacing project. And so with that being said, I just want to take a moment to thank the entire council for their adoption of the FY 25 budget, your continued support of our parks and recreation facilities. It's vital to this community. And I was pleased to hear our student tonight talk about how parks and playgrounds would be an important part of her city if she were mayor. It was said 2 or 3 times throughout her essay. And it's very heartwarming for someone in my position here. And it should be very heartwarming for you as well, because you do continue to so avidly support those facilities. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank you so much for that continued dedication to premier parks and facilities in Westminster. Thank you.
Mr. President. Do you know approximately how long those courts are gonna be down? I don't know why I'm asking that.
I'm not sure what the curing process will be. So as soon as we chat with the contractor and have a firm date, we'll post that on our social media so that everyone is aware.
And that is not gonna be the same topping as it is at the other court that was just refinished, correct?
That is correct. So JC Park was simply done with driveway sealer, essentially, and all we were trying to do for that was to maintain playable pickleball courts while these were under renovation. So it's not the greatest surface to play on, but it is something at this point.
All right, cool, thank you.
And one other announcement I did almost forget is just any of our general public that's listening this evening, Wakefield Valley Community Trail. This is not Wakefield Valley Park, but it's the community trail that parallels Route 31. A section of that between Uniontown Road and Windsor Drive will be closed due to a small sinkhole that has formed in the center of the trail. And our amazing streets department, they're working arduously to get that fixed and that facility back online. So thank you for your patience while that repair is good.
And Mr. President, so this past weekend, I did not send you a picture yet, but I took a picture at King Park. There were 24 people, 8 a.m. Saturday morning, waiting to play pickleball at King Park. And that was still while their court was being used at downtown before. Now it's closed, so I'm almost expecting like a line out King Park. So we have a lot of pickleball players in Westminster. Just letting everybody know on council that is quite the sport around town.
Are there any other questions for the Recreation and Parks Director? All right, here now we will move on to the Technology Department. Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Ms. Moss.
Just two little things tonight. One, we were still in the middle of our cybersecurity audit, going through that process with the firm, trying to finish up in the next week or two. And second, I'd like to welcome Colin Planta, who is our new GIS analyst. So he started with us last week, and we're starting to throw him right in the mix and get him going on making some maps and then update some stuff for us. So that is our report, unless you have any questions.
Hearing none, we will move on to the Human Resources Department. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Moss. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Human Resources has nothing new to report, but I would like to say that being a former performer, I look forward to participating in some of the arts around the city. I do look forward to it.
Any questions for the Human Resources Department? Hearing none, we'll move on to the Housing Department. Mr. Brown.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report. Any questions for the Housing Director? Hearing none, we will move on to Planning, Community, and Economic Development Department.
Thank you. I want to thank Councilmember Huff for the kind words. I also want to point out the Mayor and Common Council and their involvement of creating the design preference manual that staff does use, that we are implementing these better plans and designs, as well as the Historic District Commission now. We do take projects in the Historic District to them for review and comment as well. There are specific elements in those design preferences that tie to the Historic District. So again, there's a large group of people working really well together right now, and that's why you're seeing some of these better projects within the city. On April 18th, the Planning and Zoning Commission is tentatively scheduled to be introduced an amendment to the Wakefield Valley Development Plan, proposing to construct 25 single-family detached dwellings on parcel W, consisting of 38.29 acres, and dedicating parcel X, consisting of 16.06 acres, to Carroll Lutheran Church. Parcel W is located just northwest of the Durbin House. You're probably familiar with this project. They were proposing, I believe, double that or a little bit more than that for housing. So it's reduced quite a bit to the 25 being proposed now. We're also reviewing the McDaniel Overlook Preliminary Subdivision Plan, P2362. This is to construct 4 single-family detached dwellings on 1.27 acres located off of Wintrust Drive, approximately 150 feet north of Lower Field Circle. This is right across from the State Highway Department buildings there. It's a long rectangular parcel that will have an access drive connecting or accessing 4 houses along that driveway. I also wanted to point out before 12 o'clock in the start of the beer and barbecue, there's a farmer's market. So come down, get some coffee, a snack. That ends at 12, perfect timing to go right into the event. And that completes my report. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Mr. Depot? Hearing none, we will move on to the Finance Department. Ms. Rogers.
Thank you, Ms. Inhalls. Good evening. Just wanted to say I'm really sorry that I missed the Raven Tree dedication. I was on vacation on Friday, but I did get a chance to go to the farmer's market and bought some great goodies. So I echo Mr. Depot. I encourage everyone to get out there because there's some great things to buy. There's some great vendors there this year as always. From the Finance Department, we are simply I say, but preparing for our fiscal year end close, which is June 30th, and also making preparations to set up our books for our new fiscal year opening on July 1st. That's all I have on my report tonight. If you have any questions, I'm available.
Are there any questions for the Finance Director? Hearing none, we will move on to the Police Chief. Chief Level.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. To piggyback on what Councilperson Gilbert touched on earlier with the elder abuse, we are planning a fraud scam presentation in collaboration with the State's Attorney's Office. We'll be doing it at Carroll Lutheran Village, and we're going to videotape it so that we can push it out on social media, encourage people to talk with vulnerable members of their family. It's just become such a pervasive crime threat across the globe. So we're just trying to make a push for awareness and prevention on that. You may have read a story in the paper about drug overdose data for 2024. So I just wanted to kind of touch on that. So far in 2024, there's been significant decrease in both total overdoses, which have decreased by about 47.2%, as well as the fatal overdoses, which have decreased so far year to date by 55.6%, which is pretty significant. And I'm looking at the 5-year data from 2020 through 2024. So far, we're our lowest year in the last 5 years. So I think it's due to a lot of things, but there's a lot of good collaboration going on and efforts to mitigate this community health and public safety issue. We currently have 2 of our field trainees who are now solo out of patrol. 2 are still in field training, hopefully completing at some point in the near future. We've got 1 certified police officer applicant in background. That's all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
I'm gonna pop in here for a second. Chief Ledwell doesn't like to take too much credit for things, and as at this level, we can't do anything on our own, right? So that's how we get to a place where we're not taking that much credit for things. But his commitment to community policing and to maintaining the quick response team, the QR team, quick response team, is absolutely one of the factors that leads to the decrease in those numbers. And the chief's leadership in the city and at the county level as well has a significant quantitative impact on those folks that are experiencing addiction and the variety of causes that happen outside of addiction as well. So Chief, thank you for your ongoing commitment and leadership to that. And I just want to make sure you heard that from me. That's definitely one of the contributing factors. Are there any questions for the chief? Mr. President, that concludes the departmental reports.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Impulse. Final item on our agenda tonight is citizens' comments. And we invite the public to address the mayor and council on any issues that pertain to tonight's agenda or any city issues. For citizens not attending the public meeting, we invite you to send us your comments or concerns via email at comments@westminstermd.gov. All comments received by email will be shared with the mayor and council. Commenters should include their address and phone number with their comments. We'll now invite comments from anyone who is present this evening. If anyone would like to comment, please give us your name and address. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Bernie Vogel, and I'm the owner of the Genie Bird Baking Company at 42 West Main Street in Westminster, Maryland. And I've had this meeting on my calendar for the last 9 years, the second and fourth, and have never been compelled to come to a city meeting until this month. I came to say thank you, and I came to say job well done. First, I'd like to start with Parks and Rec. I've had the pleasure of trying to become more a part of the solution instead of being part of the problem, and helping with our downtown strolls, which this past year have really been, not only has the weather been great, but the increase in participation from citizens far, near and far, was clearly visibly measurable. The Flower and Jazz Festival, I had never seen so many people. I thought it was at Woodstock. But handled so well by all the volunteers and all the city staff from early in the morning until breakdown, and it was done really, really well. Number 2 is I wanted to thank, I guess I'll throw this at Sarah, but I know a lot of you are involved, but we have flowers, and we have veterans, and we have flags, and we have music, and we have lights on trees. And when people come to town to visit Westminster on the way to Gettysburg or to introduce their children to McDaniel College, and they see these things and they're really impressed. It's as we say in the restaurant business, people eat with their eyes before they ever put a fork of food in their mouth, and that's what they see. And it has had a tremendous impact on my business, and I appreciate that. But lastly, probably the one that really inspired me to come here tonight is for the last month, we've had construction equipment and jackhammers and asphalt going in the ground and asphalt coming out of the ground and going back in again. But Mike Ballantyne has gone above and beyond, in my humble opinion, setting expectations with projects like that. There's always, speed bumps and chuck holes and curveballs and things. And the way he communicated to me personally via text, stopping in the business, explaining what each step of the project was. He set very, very clear expectations, and people would come in and complain, and all I could say was, they're doing a great job. We need to have it done. When I saw that black iron pipe come out of the city, out of the ground, and saw what we used to run our city on, it's no wonder it was needed, and it has been done beautifully. And thank you. And I think I just wanted on Mike's behalf just to say he's done a really good job. He's a diplomat as well as a project manager, and it's gone really well. Thank you as a business.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you saying that.
Can we clap for citizen comments? Are you allowed to do that? That's not for Bernie.
We've been concerned.
Bernie, you should come more often.
Well, he already is. It's been on my phone for 9 years, the second and fourth, but I'll try to find more reasons to come.
Thank you. I'm always delighted to see you, even without pictures.
We're closed on Monday, right? You guys have a long day to meet.
I know it's our fault. We're
Not every day at all.
That's right. Anyone else wish to be heard tonight? Right? Well, with that, that concludes our agenda and the meeting. Our next regular meeting will be Monday, July 8th. I'll note that the council will not meet on the fourth Monday of the month, on June 24th, as most of us will be attending Maryland Municipal League in. And with that, and without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you.